So, continuing from last week, I'm going to make another dessert this week. Death by chocolate cake. This is a really easy dessert to make. It's only 5 ingredients and it takes no time to put together, and then you're just waiting for it to cook. To start off, we need to separate the egg yolks from the whites. So simple enough. I'm going to put the egg whites into the stand mixer bowl and the egg yolks into my other bowl here. So the easiest way I found to separate the egg yolks and the whites is to crack them into my hand. Now if you're having a hard time doing this because your yolks are breaking or whatever, I'm pretty sure you're using battery eggs. So go and get yourself some free range eggs and this process is a lot easier. Okay, once you've got your egg yolks and your egg whites separated, we're going to focus on this for a minute and we're going to add the sugar into the egg yolks. Now as always, amounts and ingredients will be on the website traditionalbutnot.com. Once you got your sugar in, you're going to cream the egg yolks and the sugars together. So you're just going to keep on whisking. Probably take you around 1.5 to 2 minutes of whisking until it changes to a pale colour and there's no more graininess from the sugar. Once your eggs and your sugar look a little something like that, we're finished with those and now we can focus on the egg whites. So you can also do this bit with a whisk, but you know, it's much easier with a stand mixer. So we'll just close it down. We've got the whisk attachment there and we're just going to whisk these until stiff peaks. Once your egg whites look a little something like that, they're ready and we'll head to the stove. Now we need to melt down some chocolate. So I've got a pot of water here, pretty much boiling, and we're going to put another bowl on top. And now we're going to crack in our dark chocolate. We'll get it all bunged in there, break it up. You can use whatever kind of chocolate you want, just I would strongly advise to use a dark one. I'm using 70%. I probably wouldn't go any lighter than that because this dish is quite rich. Now it's in there and we just want to keep this over there and just move it around and we'll get it all melted down. As you can see, the chocolate's pretty much all melted down. There's just a little bit left. And now we're going to start adding the butter, which I don't know where you come from in the world, but in Austria, a pack of butter is 250 grams and we're going to be adding all of it. Also, this is unsalted butter we're using. That's about half of what I would say there. Just add that in. And as this gets melted down, we'll add the rest. Also, I should point out now that it's a good idea not to leave this unattended. Just keep moving it around so nothing, you know, sticks or burns or anything like that. But it shouldn't because we're in the old double boiler here. But yeah, just keep moving around with your spatula. It doesn't take too long. We'll come back once all the butter's melted. So now I've got my baking dish here and I want to line this with some parchment paper. Now the easiest way to line a dish like this with parchment paper is to get your parchment paper, I had the square here, and actually scrunch it up. You scrunch it up like this, and then it makes it so easy to mold it into there. Because if it was just like that sheet before it's crunched up, it's, you know, it sticks out, doesn't really go in there so well. Scrunch up your parchment paper, shove it on in there, makes the job much easier. So I've got my chocolate all melted down here. Now, I just want to let that cool down just for a second. And while we do that, I forgot this little step before. I've got a little bit of salt here. I'm just going to sprinkle it in my egg yolk and sugar mixture. I'm just going to mix a bit of that in. And there's a little tip there. If you're not adding salt to your desserts, you're missing out. We'll get that all mixed in, and then we'll start to incorporate everything together. So now I've got my chocolate at a temperature where it won't cook the eggs, which you don't have to wait too long. It shouldn't be too hot as it is. We'll go ahead and scoop all the sugar and the egg yolk and the salt into the chocolate, and we'll get that all mixed in. Once you got your egg yolk incorporated into the chocolate, it's time to add the egg white. So we'll plop that in. Now with the egg white, we're going to fold this in because you don't want to knock out all those air bubbles you just created with the stand mixer. So we're just going to fold this in, being a little bit more careful, and then as soon as all the white disappears, and that means it's all incorporated, and then we'll get it transferred over into the baking dish. Once you've got your egg whites folded in there, we're going to pour the whole lot into the baking dish. So one last step before we put it in this 120 degree oven without the fan is we're going to pour some water in a dish around it. And this is going to create a little bit more of a humid environment in the oven and just make it better. So we're going to put that in there and that's going to take about 1.25 hours, hour and 20 minutes. So just taking the cake out the oven and tested it. And when you poke it, you want just a little bit of goo left on a toothpick when you pull it out, just like that. Now an optional extra, which I think is mandatory, is just a little bit of finishing salt over the top, just as you take it out the oven. So you want to use as little or as much as you like, but I like a bit of salty and sweet in my life. You need to let this cool down. 4 to 5 hours is okay, but it's best to leave it overnight. So I'm going to let this cool down here on the bench, and then before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to stick it in the fridge, and then we're going to taste test it tomorrow. This is much better if you leave it in the fridge overnight, or you have to let it cool down completely. So I just did the intro a few minutes ago. and now it's time to eat. The flaky side on top is kind of needed. And also, I recommend, this would probably be the biggest piece you'd cut because this is a super indulgent kind of a dessert. I don't think you could get through much more than that, but I'm here to give it a go.